you're going towards the town of Nina, like south on that road, right over there.
Morning, Mary.
You'll see, what are they called? They're not called flock, what are they called? Turkeys? Are they flock? Yeah, you'll see 30 of them. And if we keep our thing out, for food, in the mornings, you can come out and there's all these turkeys up on my house too, like. Yeah, always trying to migrate with my chickens.
I had a cabin that's sexual one time and they came up and were dancing in front of the windows, not pecking at the window, you know, against, I thought that was.
That's what my chickens do. And now I've got these turkeys that are coming over trying to eat chicken food, and it's like, dude, you guys get away from my chicken food. I'm already feeding them and the squirrels and the birds, and I don't wanna feed squirrels.
Oh, now it's not muted.
So now we're gonna go.
John.
It's down again.
This summer. Yeah, that's a great question.
For family,
And you can go to Lake You drive? Because, you know.
Let me go to. I'll go to Arlene, where gets his daughter, and just take the back, they'll take us up someplace, then we take, okay, so. Yeah. Take the process.
Being that it's 9 o'clock, we'll start the meeting. Personnel and Finance. Today is Thursday, December 1st. You start the recording, please.
I think it is.
Is it recording?
It's recording.
Okay. We've got about 9 line items. We're gonna start with the first line item for.
Okay.
First line item for public comment. Is there any public comments in the room? Any public comments in the room? Any public comments out on video? Nobody? Okay, we're gonna close public comments. Approval of minutes.
So move.
Second.
Thank you, Betsy. Item number 3. I'm sorry. Vote.
I.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Won't let that happen again. All right. Item number 3, Mary Krieger. Got,
Good morning. So item number 3 is to approve the sale of 2 tax foreclosed properties to the city of Menasha. They are both vacant lots. They are both have had the improvements removed. And the city of Menasha is interested. I did reference part of the general code where we are required to offer non-homestead properties to the municipality for our costs. And those costs are listed on my agenda item report. One property is on First Street, and that is at $37,242.77. And then the second one is the property on Grove Street. And that one would be at our cost, currently our cost is $16,390.63. The city of Menashik is in the process on that second parcel of doing a phase one study. On that one. So this just requires the committee approval to sell these to the city.
Do we have anybody wanting to make a motion at this time?
Move to approve.
And Steve is a second. Like to have a vote or a discussion? Any discussion?
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Okay. Our vote is
I,
aye, it's 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, item 3 or item 4, which is the approval of values on the interim tax foreclosure. That would be used as well. then.
Correct. That is my second agenda item report. That contains my 10 properties. They're basically remnant properties, strips between where legal descriptions didn't match up, leaves a little gap in between there. Kind of a cleanup year was, they had the taxes that required the action. None of them really have any value. A couple of them are landlocked strips, so hopefully the adjoining property owner, that's really the only one that would have any damage to those properties. One in Winnebago is underwater. But the adjoining properties underwater are privately owned. So maybe one of them wants more property, I don't know. So then, I have this resolution then that would go to the board. Pending value established by the committee.
I'd like to move to approve.
Okay, and who's seconding? Don is seconding. For discussion, let me just ask something here. The $100 each time, is that your costs that are added to that? Or is that what the,
That's basically what the value, it's kind of the lowest value that we can give to a property.
okay. So that isn't coming, that isn't coming our way, that's going to be,
It would be offsetting what our costs are.
okay,
So it would go, like, for instance, that first property, the town of Algoma one, the 002024016. Our actual costs are $562.89. When we start a foreclosure action, we automatically add a $200, it's called a search and notice fee. It's basically covering our title search costs and notification costs to the owners. So that's part of that 562. On that one,
all right.
but none of them really have any value. Except to an adjoining owner.
Okay. Can we have a vote? Or did you have another question?
Yes. And or. An opinion. On the Grams Road one. That's 2 acres of farmland. And. Now, are these gonna go for auction? So it wouldn't matter if it's valued at, I mean, it's worth way more than $100.
That's the Grand River Bridge, which is the parcel number on that one.
It's
Just.
014-043801.
But it's, it's kind of like a drainage ditch. That one is.
Part of it is.
Is it a utility easement or that, sorry?
Not on that one. That one's not the utility easement.
All right.
Most of it is being farmed, right? Is
Well, I did kind of a bigger map and just, I don't have a color printer in my office. But it is just this narrow strip right along here.
Mhm.
And you can see that it's more of a, I think a swale. Kind of in there,
But-
yes, the properties on each side are being farmed.
You can
Absolutely.
zoom in on the GIS
Yes.
and you can see where the, each farmer's farming part of it. And
The
I think it's
municipality had it valued at 1,700. You know, at auction, yeah, they can bid and it can go up. These values established, that'll be the minimum opening bid.
so. I'm okay with that.
That's good.
Once again, thanks for doing a lot of, I mean, this was a big job going through all the properties and so forth. Are there more to come, or is this pretty much cleaning up the majority of the stuff that you were handed?
This is from our last foreclosure action. We do
So
pretty
each-
one action a year,
Okay.
pretty much. And this will be my last time of presenting to you. I will be retiring in the spring, so just letting you know that.
Congratulations.
33 years.
That's enough. That's enough.
Yeah.
Did you find a replacement?
Are you having a party?
Pardon?
Are you having a party?
Or not. Awesome. Good for years. Congratulations.
All of the treasurer's office.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Uh,
Treasuries are alive.
Yeah,
Good luck.
thanks.
Do we have a vote?
I,
Okay, and an aye, that's 5-0.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Carol Bremer. Is she here? Amend the Winnebago County General Code, section 5.04 pertaining to cremation permit fees.
She isn't here.
It is not here.
I don't want to be laid over until she can have a chance to come there.
Postpone until the next meeting.
Or until she gets here.
Well,
Yeah. Or,
Can we not, I mean, do we have to have her here in order to vote on this?
I'm reasonably familiar with it. I discussed it with her.
I'm not familiar with it. You want to present it?
I think I can. I expected her here. I just,
Well,
Since I
do you
discussed
want to
it.
make a phone call?
we do that.
I had looked at this as well, and Cheryl and I spoke. But I think she is on vacation this week.
Oh, she's on vacation.
I was just thinking, she was working through
You
Thanksgiving.
can do it.
Let him, she's,
She's on vacation.
if she's on vacation, yes, I don't know.
Why don't she work through Thanksgiving? So, and I think she had said when I was going through this with her, that, she was gonna take off the week after Thanksgiving, so maybe that's it. You have no one on Zoom?
No one on Zoom, no.
Let me just quickly look at this to refresh my recollection. Okay.
Ready?
I can address it.
Okay, Marianne will address the ordinance amending the Winnebago General Code 504.
Right. So Cheryl had come to me and had indicated that the fees that were established for the issuance of a cremation permit were outdated, to say the least. And I am going to rely on my colleague because he may have been involved in some of these discussions as well, so you can refresh my recollection.
In fact, I know there was, I'm not sure how many years it's been since it was increased, but, I remember a number of years ago, Coroner Busby brought a request to increase the fee from 150 to 200, which was about to be submitted for vote to the county board, and then the state passed the law saying that imposing a moratorium on fee increases. So now the current law is you can increase the fees only by an amount equal to the change in the CPI from year to year for the previous year. So I did that calculation for Cheryl, determined that they would allow a $10 an hour fee increase if it were imposed this year. So that would be based on the 2021 CPI increases.
$10 an hour?
I'm sorry, $10 per cremation. A $10 increase.
And I think the thought was, the reason we wanted, there was a desire to get it in to this meeting was because the fact was the permit fees had not been raised in probably almost a decade.
mhm,
And if we could get it in for December, then we would be able to come back in 2023 for another increase pursuant to the consumer price index. That was the thought.
So she has attached to the packet a list of what other counties charge. And they're kind of all over the map. 150 isn't that unusual, but one of the reasons there's a lot of pressure on our fees that we, I believe, do not charge a death certificate signing fee, or it looks like there is a $50 disinterment fee, but the certificate signing fee would produce a lot of revenue. But we don't have that, and since we don't have it, we can only raise it by a certain percentage, which is 0. And we're not able to impose a certificate signing fee at this point. So the cremation release fee is the only revenue source essentially that they have.
And I just want to be clear, when I was talking to Cheryl about it, she said, well, you know, if it couldn't come in December, if she needed to rely on one fee increase, she was fine with that. But if, given the fact that there have not been fee increases over the last 7 or actually probably more than 10 years, this was just an opportunity to see what the board wanted to do with it.
Why do we want to raise it and then raise it again? Why do you not want to raise it one time and leave it alone?
Because it's linked to the consumer price index. So you can only do it based on,
A new CPI?
yes, that's the rub.
When I take a look at some of these, and very often they're linked to a large municipality rather than some of the smaller and not large population areas.
The cost of cremation is the same.
Yeah,
Is this up for discussion and should we put a motion first?
well, we don't have motion. We haven't, because we haven't got Cheryl here. That's the only reason. So we'll make a motion to accept the change, if you want to do that,
I'd like to.
for the ordinance, amending the general code, just as Mary Ann would like it to be
Is that
done.
your motion?
Yes,
Second.
Okay. That's it,
and then I have a question.
indeed.
So I'm assuming that the reason, I mean, obviously, we're trying to get to a certain number, which is probably 200. Or whatever the number is that she wants in order to be able to cover the price of the stuff that she needs done.
That's right.
So in order to do that, we have to get it in before the end of the year, because that puts that level at a
That
higher
was
level.
closer.
And then when next year, we could do that next little bit of an increase and get the closest that we could get. So that's why we're doing it so fast now.
That
makes sense.
was the thought. That was the thought. But again, in fairness, if the board was not comfortable, Cheryl would be fine with one increase, because I don't want to, you know, say anything otherwise, but yeah.
And can we not, and I think, Mike, you mentioned that on the processing fee, so it's at 0 right now, and we cannot increase it, or we can increase that too at one point?
No, we cannot, because
Because it
we're
was
only
at
allowed a
0.
percentage increase.
And then there's no, with the 0, I gotcha. Wow, that's, okay, I'm good now. Okay,
And if you look at line 20, it says that the costs associated with the materials and supplies for the coroner's office have increased. But again, the permit fees have remain the same. So
Yeah.
this is just to try to equal things out. Yeah.
Try to cover our costs as much as we can.
That's
I gotcha. That makes sense.
So where does that little bit of money go?
What's revenue in the office of the medical examiner next year?
Does she have a contingency fund attached to hers so that she can handle her supplies and whatever else?
No, it's just a regular budget with the revenue from fees reflected as revenue and the office
Yeah.
expenses listed, you know.
So that any extension to the raising of the fees next year on the CPI will have to include her budget or whatever. Is that what you?
No, the increase would be included in the estimate of fees for the budget, but it's only an estimate.
All
But
right,
it's an ordinance.
Right.
everybody done with the questions? Do we want to vote?
I,
Aye, 5 ayes. Okay, thank you. Next, item 6. Approving and amending the table of organization for the sheriff's office by eliminating one full-time crime and analyst, internet crime investigator position and adding one full-time detective lieutenant position. And you are the person that they're looking at right now.
Yes,
Okay,
this is investigator Mike Seawall. Mike came to us, was a shared position as a crime analyst with the district attorney's office in 2013. We soon recognized that his abilities went far beyond the analysis of crimes and diversion programs, et cetera. And he became a full-time deputy position as a internet crimes investigator. We needed a sidebar agreement with the union because it is a deputy position in order to get that approved, and that has created some issues, although they've been very good working with us. An example would be in 2020, we had a double homicide that occurred in the town of Omro, and Mike was one of the lead investigators, which was outside of the sidebar agreement, which allowed him to do internet crimes against children and other internet crimes. But they did not file a grievance, and everything was okay, but his skill set is far beyond what we're using him for right now. So we're asking that it be changed to a lieutenant's position, which is an administrative position that falls under the authority of the sheriff, not any bargaining agreement. So it would eliminate the need for any sidebar with his position. So one of the questions you may have is why now and why not at budget time? Mike was headhunted by the state of Wisconsin Department of Criminal Investigation as a internet crime investigator for them, and actually trains many of their agents, their new agents, in the field of ICAC, the Internet Crimes Investigator position. So we need to act on this quickly, and hopefully you will approve the position so that he can remain with our agency. We plan on expanding his role, which we're no longer bound to a sidebar agreement. We expand his role into a victims crime unit where we will look at other internet crimes, the fraud that's occurring. Oftentimes, I'm sure you've all been targeted with phone calls. You've been targeted with spam. You've been targeted with all sorts of different fraudulent, either emails or phone calls. And unfortunately, we have people that fall for those things. We recently had a lady that in excess of $100,000 that she had paid out. And that was after we actually spoke to her during the first $70,000 that she had lost. So they typically will prey on those that they know once you're on the phone, they know that they have somebody that they're going to make money off of. And our job and our goal is to make life very miserable for them. Recently, was a former county board member had an issue with a telemarketer that continued to call, he was harassing in nature. And we were actually able to stop that, even though there was no crime committed. We were able to stop that from happening. One of the other things that Mike is going to do a presentation on what he has done and what he plans to do, and the overall plans for the Victims Crime Unit. The other thing that is becoming very popular is called sextortion. It's where someone will send a picture of a intimate part to someone, and they think it's somebody they're having an internet relationship that they hope to have a real relationship with. They send a picture of an intimate area, and then they are extorted for money, or that person will release it on social media. And we've had some very sad stories. It's especially vulnerable are teenagers, and we actually had one that was connected to a suicide because of it. So we have taken a very aggressive approach when dealing with sextortion, and Mike has been a pivotal part of that. Anytime we have an internet type crime, our patrol and other detectives go to Mike, and they seek out his advice and his ability to get to the dark web. And the cost is $9,252. I'm not asking for any budget transfer. The average salary for an ICAC, an Internet Crimes Against Children investigator for Wisconsin DCI, is $104,000. So Mike is willing to stay at the new rate. And,
What is the new rate?
it is 91. It includes all of what you see in the calculation is on the back, should be on the back page.
Okay,
Yeah, so when you look at the 130,953 or 43, that is with all of the fringe. So it is a $9,200 increase, but that includes fringe. Okay. And again, I'm not asking for any budget transfer for that. And the average salary, once again, for the 87 agents with the state of Wisconsin is $104,000.
and you can cover that.
Did the Judiciary Committee approve it already?
They have not, and I asked to go out of order, and I got permission from both chairmen to do that, because we need to get to the county board in December.
Okay.
So we can complete this and start it in January.
Brian Stafford contacted me and cleared it, and so we're not doing something out of step here. So, my question only was in the $9,200,
Yeah,
where is that coming from? Is that coming from your contingency?
it's we typically will give back a fair amount of dollars in our labor because of fringe. Somebody doesn't take a family plan. I think the new employees are figured with a family plan, and not all of them have a family plan. So we will be able to cover the $9,200. Our labor budget is the majority of our budget, as it is with all of the departments.
You don't have a motion?
I'll move to approve upon them
Second,
that the Judiciary Committee approves it.
Okay, conditionally? Over the phone, we got half of it approved.
Oh, that's what I was coming to.
Okay, Dave? And Bessie.
Mike will now give you his presentation if you all are okay.
That's
with
what
it.
I was waiting.
Yeah,
Excellent, thank you, appreciate it. So like Sheriff Mott said, I've been here for almost 10 years. And we've developed our ICAC program basically from the onset, when all the other departments throughout the state and country were developing their ICAC programs. And if you want to take a look at the screen, I can just kind of run through various aspects of what we do, for instance. So On a regular basis, we run proactive online undercover investigations, so that entails myself and other investigators posing as either children or adults online, in an attempt to locate those who are trying to exploit children. We've had a lot of success, and actually we are one of the leaders in the entire country in these proactive undercover investigations, and that's why I've been kind of recruited to go and train other departments throughout the country. I've trained at Los Angeles Police Department and Dallas Police Department. You know, some of those larger agencies that may not have an element like we do, but we've kind of spearheaded it right here in Winnebago County and revolutionized what it means to be an ICAC affiliate. We also run peer-to-peer child exploitation material investigations. So that's basically people that are sharing images and videos of kids on the internet. We're able to go and investigate those types of crimes. We receive what are called cyber tips. So all the social media platforms, so like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those platforms have a way to police their own platform. When they find something that's going on their platform that isn't okay, so whether it's images and videos that are being shared, conversations that shouldn't be occurring with children and adults, they send those out to the proper ICAC affiliates. They send them to Winnebago County. And that would be part of my job, is to make sure that we take care of those cyber tips, or it's delegated into the group that we're gonna have investigating these things. Back in 2020, I was deputized by the U.S. Marshal Service as a federal task force officer with the FBI. So I now serve on the Violent Crimes Against Children Task Force in Milwaukee with the FBI. We do a lot of national and international collaboration. I'm going to show you some of the operations just real briefly, and some of the accomplishments that we've had there. I do lots of community and law enforcement training. So I work with the Oshkosh School District on a regular basis, doing community presentations on school safety, online safety. And finally, we assist agencies, not only this region, this state, but all over the country and world with their own ICAC programs, and as well as DOC, so the Department of Corrections. We work hand in hand with them, again, throughout the state for their high-risk sex offenders that are getting released. Kind of went over that already, just get through there. So undercover chats, again, they span all kinds of different applications that we use and that are coming out day after day. And I'm sure all of you are aware of how technology is constantly advancing and changing. And if you have kids or grandkids, nieces and nephews, you name it, there's always a new app that's coming out. And I think that's one of the more difficult things about investigating these types of crimes, is staying up to date with all of the new technology that's coming out, because it just takes time, right? It takes time and energy to sit and reevaluate what we're doing, try to be as effective as possible. So I just want to give a quick example of one of the cases that we ran right here in our county. So this is Tommy Jenkins. He had multiple law enforcement contacts involving children over a decade here in Winnebago County. So whether it was in Neenah, Fox Crossing, City of Oshkosh, Town of Oshkosh, he had over a dozen different complaints from children about conduct that he was doing. This was now in 2019, I believe. The Winnebago County Sheriff's Office, we charged him with kidnapping after he left with two young girls, and he was found with them nude in a storage unit outside of the county. Those charges were later dismissed, and as an ICAC unit, that's what we're built for, right? We're built to take care of problems like this when you have a predator that's living amongst in our community, preying on our children all throughout the county. So what happened was Tommy actually ended up moving back down to Indiana, where he was from. And I engaged him in one of our undercover operations. And Tommy ended up actually walking the 350 miles back up here, where we were able to hold him accountable and charge him federally with child enticement. So that led to a 10-year sentence for Tommy, and he'll be on lifetime GPS. So the federal government will always know where he's at. And he'll no longer be a threat to any community out there. And I think what's unique about this case is the fact that he lived here for well over a decade. Figured that the heat was kind of on after the last incident, and what did he do? He moved back to Indiana where he thought he could get away with it some more, right? Where he could become a ghost again. And part of our job is to take care of these kinds of problems and these predators, no matter where it is that they're existing. So this is in a span of about 4 years. These are all the arrests that we had locally. So right here in Winnebago County, or in the adjacent county, so Allegheny County, Met, Fond du Lac. And you'll see here, you know, the unique thing about ICAC investigations and crimes against children is you never know who's going to be involved. So we had the executive director of the Habitat for Humanity, the Department of Corrections worker, multiple U.S. military personnel. We had a school custodian that was working in the NIA school district that we were able to apprehend. We had a pastor and finally a sheriff candidate. So Alex Beebe ran for Allegheny County Sheriff 2 cycles ago, I believe. And we were able to, and he was former law enforcement at the time. So we were able to take care of that based on a cyber tip and hold him accountable for crimes against children. So the big point about this photo specifically is just the amount of work and the amount of people that there are out there that are preying on our children. And this isn't international here. This is right here in Northeast Wisconsin, and the people that we're able to hold accountable. So I talk briefly about Operation Kickboxer. So in 2020, I initiated an international undercover operation. It was a collaboration between the Winnebago County Sheriff's Office, the FBI, and the U.S. Attorney's Office in Green Bay. So over a 2-year span, we were able to identify 3,200 suspects throughout the world. We initiated over 100 search warrants throughout the country and world, all at various FBI offices. All 50 states were represented in this operation. We had 75 arrests, and I think the most important number here is 79 children saved. So all 79 of those kids over those past 2 years were being sexually assaulted by somebody live at the time when we were in communication with them, and we were able to dispatch FBI agents or local ICAC affiliates to go save those children. Here are just some accomplishments and awards that we've been recognized for our work here in Winnebago County. We received the 2021 Investigative Excellence Award by the U.S. Attorney's Office. We were nominated for the 2021 FBI Director's Award, which is the biggest award the FBI has. In 2019, we were awarded the Department of Justice ICAC Case of the Year, and in 2016, the DOJ ICAC Forensic Analyst of the Year Award. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about some new trends and things and why, you know, we believe that this position would benefit this county and the people of this community. Briefly touched on sextortion, cyber tips, elder fraud, and phone scams. So sextortion, so cases have increased by over 50% year to year since 2020. Since the pandemic and the time spent on devices and the internet, it's increased by a significant margin. Here in Winnebago, we see a similar 50% increase from year to year. I've had discussions at least once a month with either a teenager or a young adult that has been put in a situation where they either give money or face public ridicule by a suspect that is difficult to locate. 1 in 4 victims was under 13 years old, and almost 50% of victims were threatened on a daily basis. So what happens there, and there's been multiple accounts throughout the state of teen suicide based on sextortion because of the situation that they're in, right? They don't want to tell somebody about it, or they feel that they're going to face public ridicule when their friends find this picture or see the video that they took. And that can be a very difficult problem. The nice thing that we have at our disposal, with me being a federal task force officer, is we can actually find the people that are sextorting people. 90% of the time, it does not happen in this state or in this area. A lot of times it's overseas, and we've actually effected 3 or 4 arrests on folks in Nigeria, in various countries throughout the world because of my contacts with the FBI and being able to locate those people with the resources that we have at a federal level. So cyber tips, kind of like I discussed before. In 2021, there were 21 million cyber tips, which was an increase of 35%. 29 million is nationwide. So those 29 million are times where a child is being exploited in one form or another. Here in Winnebago County, we've seen an increase of 50% from prior years. That's about 2 to 3 new cyber tips per month on average. Each cyber tip, just so you have an awareness of kind of what kind of work goes into that, takes approximately 1 month to fully investigate. That's with subpoenas, search warrants, surveillance, and doing all those critical steps in order to identify and eventually apprehend a suspect. So elder fraud and financial scams, again, up to 50% from 2021, and that is going to continue. There's been over $3.6 billion of warrants nationwide. Sheriff Mott's shared locally some of the situations that we've had. Not to try to outdo you with the numbers, but we had one 2 years ago where I was actually called by a private attorney specifically because they knew that we had a skill set in this stuff, to come have a consultation with a woman who had lost almost $1.8 million in a scam like this. And that's due to a lot of factors, right? Tactics are becoming more sophisticated. These scammers are learning how to make phony phone numbers and make you believe that you are they're somebody else, and try to take advantage of specifically our elderly population. So what our plan would be with that too is to have a lot of education involved with this and more outreach with people. I don't think we do enough right now as far as reaching out and making sure everyone's aware of all the problems that can occur, and some of the warning signs that are out there when it is a scam. So finally, how can we address these growing issues? So a coordinated effort by a dedicated subunit in the detective division. So that would be our special victims unit. So we would take care of all crimes against children, elder abuse, and any other special victim that presents itself. This subunit would have a very specific set of technical skills to be able to react to all kinds of crimes. I would act as a federal liaison to hold offenders accountable no matter where the jurisdiction is. As a TFO, I'm able to bring up a multitude of resources from all the different FBI RAs and headquarters down in Milwaukee, such as polygraphers, surveillance units, high technology, pen tap trace devices, things like that.
Sure, muted.
Utilize those pieces, investigations right here in Winnebago County. We can conduct more proactive operations to continue to keep the children of Winnebago County and Northeast Wisconsin. And then I would propose a regional task force led by Winnebago County, because of our unique set of skills and expertise here, to combat exploitation and the growing threat in Northeast Wisconsin. So any questions on any of that stuff? Yeah.
Were any of them pictures of the guys from our county out at our famous trailer park?
Oh, you mean the housing, the 980 housing? I don't believe so. Those offenders are typically, they're older offenders that have sat all of their time, oftentimes 10, 15, 20 years in the prison, and then spent significant time at Sandridge, the treatment facility. So we're talking 25 years probably is the average. But I will tell you that, you know, sex offenders, in my opinion, I mean, it's it is an urge that never goes away. And they get, oftentimes they will resort to internet sharing of large files of internet porn with children, or the production of, I mean, some of the stories that Mike has told me are, you know, mind-boggling. They're sad. They're all of those things. And one of the reasons why, you know, we want Mike to, he does get counseling, which looking at all of that stuff on a regular basis. He also Quantico in the FBI Academy or the FBI headquarters in Quantico. You have to go there once a year.
Yeah, twice a year.
Twice a year, and they check to make sure he's okay. We don't want to lose this skill set, and you can only do this so long. And then, somebody else has to do it. So we're developing more of our detectives to have the skill set so we can spread this out. And Mike's not texting or on a chat at 2 a.m. Because, offenders don't work 9 to 5.
Recently, my 20-year-old is doing this thing called Being Real. Have you heard of this one?
I have not.
So
Oh, I
it's
have.
another one of those, and I'm like, oh yeah, I could see this being slightly like, in that kind of category, and it worries me because when you have, I don't know, who else has young children or that age or younger grandkids or what have you, but my gosh, I can't even imagine the magnitude of what you look at and how you can find these specific things. In school board for 12 years, I saw some things that made my toes curl and I thought, oh my God. And I can't imagine what you see. So thank you. Thank you for what you do and the seniors too, because we see that all the time. I mean, I work with senior, I go to
Redhead.
the back communities a lot, because I teach them mahjong and play games with them and stuff. And constantly, I mean, oh, I had this thing and I thought it was my granddaughter. I guess that's a big one, and that might have been the, yeah, and.
Grandson's in
Do
jail.
not, yeah, I'm like, do not, yeah, or they're stuck overseas, they need help, and I'm like, do not give money to that, and, but, so, yeah, thank you for what you do, and being the liaison between the federal agencies and here.
Yeah, and on that note, we're the only one in this area that I'm the only TFO for the FBI up in this region, so. The idea behind the task force and kind of bringing in more of these agencies is to. I'll be the central piece of that, and I'll be able to bring FBI resources not only to our county, but to Allegheny, Fond du Lac, Calumet, and the greater region, so that, obviously, sex offenders move around, they prey on people no matter where they live. And so having us as being that focal point, I think is important because everybody needs help because it's a growing problem and it's not going away. It's only getting worse. And that's why a dedicated unit, I think, is so important because we'll have bodies in order to be proactive and take care of things before they get worse.
And this is just to give you the flexibility to be able to do more or to do a better job of what you're already doing. So I'm happily supporting this. I think it should be even more.
Any other questions? That Tommy Jenkins, why was he,
Let's work.
The charges dismissed. So that's a prosecutorial decision that was made. There was some diminished capacity that he had, and I think that was kind of inflated by the prosecutors at the time. So that was a kind of a factor that was in play there. And again, it's their decision what they decide to do with it once we kind of do the hard work on the front end. But that's one of those situations where when I look at things like, if I can do more about it, I'm going to do more about it. And especially knowing the background of the kind of individual that he was. And that's another benefit of being an FBI task force officer is I bring all my cases to Green Bay, where they're federally prosecuted instead of prosecuted by the state. And that's, if I arrest somebody in Winnebago County, I can do that as well. And it's harsher sentences at the federal level. So for Tommy's case, at a state level, it would have been maybe 3 years incarceration, where the mandatory minimum federally is 10 years for that same crime. Yeah, so they're the decisions that they make at the prosecutorial level. We have no say or sometimes no rationale as to why that occurred.
can I ask who dropped the charges?
I'm not even aware.
The former DA, Christian. However, with Tommy Lee, he was evaluated competent prior to that for another offense. He was evaluated, found competent 2 other times. So he knows right from wrong. He just, when we say diminished capacity, he definitely knows right from wrong. And actually, during the interview, tried to steer things during the interview. He knew what the elements of the crimes were, so he tried to steer it away from the interview from that. So,
when we arrested him on the federal charges, when they raised that motion of competency, they get sent on the federal level to North Carolina for up to 9 months. And they get evaluated for as long as they need to in order to determine if they're able to make decisions. And he was released in less than 2 weeks, and they said, yeah, he's able to make decisions on his own. So it's very clear that he's.
That's disturbing.
One at a time, please.
A piggyback on that is that even if he does have diminished abilities, he still committed the crime. He's still out in the public.
Yep, and there's
That's so frustrating to me.
and there's different ways to deal with people when they have other issues going on, besides just letting them go back into the public.
and dismissing each other.
Yep, so.
Sorry, it's frustrating.
Steve, Dave, you have any questions? What interests me about this presentation, there are people in those pictures that you identified as teachers, executive directors, people with college educations that are out there doing this as well. We need somebody.
Yeah.
And we need somebody to,
That's why Mike is here, and that's why we're gonna continue to develop what we're doing and not stop.
I'll be for this. Anybody else have any positive? feedback?
I'll move to approve the position.
Okay,
I think we already did that.
we're already there. We're voting now, please.
Enthusiastically, yes.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
The judiciary passes it, correct? Isn't that word used, contingent on?
Contingent on judiciary.
Just want to make sure I get it correct. Thank you.
John, John Hatch. Sure. Make sure that you're here from the judiciary.
Yes.
That's bad.
You want me to contact you, or?
You contact me, we'll make sure that the vote on the
Yeah.
resolution gets there.
Yep, I will.
Okay,
Yep. I will
thank you.
contact you, probably Tuesday morning, because sometimes our meetings go. a little
That's
late.
fine. Thank you. Okay, we're at item number 7, Mark.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for your presentation, by the way.
All right, I'm here to present an adjustment to the unclassified physician's pay schedule. We do this annually for temporary project casual positions that aren't included in the regular position compensation schedule that the board approved last month. These positions aren't eligible for merit raises based on performance. And I guess I just want to kind of run through quickly. Seasonal employees, we use seasonal employees in highway, parks, airport facilities, and solid waste. And like many of our positions, even our regular positions that are, full-time and benefits, these are difficult to fill and recruit for. This past season, we didn't have any seasonals at highway or solid waste, which makes it especially difficult for those departments to continue operations. There's so many choices right now for, a lot of times with students, sometimes they get retired, employees. This last season, almost half of our seasonal positions went unfilled. So because of that, we're suggesting increasing those seasonal rates, moving those up to, you can see it on the proposed changes, moving from $13 an hour up to 15. And then we have a increase based on if they return for a second, third, or fourth year. You know, the fast food jobs, you know, some of those entry level positions, you look, they're paying 13 to 16, some are paying 17, you know, up to 20. Somehow we need to be more competitive with that. Departments already budget for seasonal positions as part of the budget process. Last year, when we reviewed this, you know, one of the comments from the Parks Director was, you know, the concern is anybody that they can come in and have help is a significant help, because otherwise the work either doesn't get done or they need to reallocate, you know, full-time employees to do some of this work. And that's true in all the departments, but then of course we're spending a lot more, and frankly, with the hiring and the shortage we have in positions, we have less resources to pull on from our regular pool. So it's even more critical that we try to get seasonal employees in. Public health, spoke with them. They had some suggested increases as well. Basically increasing mainly a little bit on the higher end, just based, so there's greater flexibility based on a person's education or experience that they would bring in. Some of the changes at Parkview, the first few are really just cleanup. The salaried nurses, the maximum of grade 24P, changing it to the RN grade, it's the same thing. It's just, instead of specifying the grade, I thought it was better to just specify in general the grade in case that ever changes. Weekends and holidays with the incentives that have been approved for the hourly staff. The thought was to give a little bit of an increase there to reflect when salaried come in, because they wouldn't be eligible for the incentives. Casual call LPN, same thing. We would just make it the control point to the grade, which is what 2702 is right now. And then part of the benefit of that is instead of specifying 2702, instead of every year having to come back and adjust that a little bit, it's already being adjusted with any adjustment we do to the compensation schedule. So if our practice has been to really be changing it each year to the control point, my thought was, let's just replace that language with control point, because then it does change. But we don't necessarily have to address it, you know, each year in this document. And then finally for Parkview, the casual call staff, the CNAs, the hospitality aides, and the food service assistants, they have not had as great a success as they would like, bringing people in at the minimum of the pay range. And if someone stays long term because they do not get any type of merit increase, you know, they're always staying at that minimum. And we do have some employees who stay casual call long term. You know, they either their particular situation or they have other jobs, they stay with us on a casual basis. And it just seems it would be a greater chance to retain those employees if we had them at the top of range 8 instead
Mark,
of.
I want to say something real quick.
Absolutely.
I had an interaction with a nurse not too long ago. And the only reason she was there wasn't for the money, it was for the health insurance that she was given. So in some cases, these people will sign up just to get the health insurance because they need a passive, you know, some sort of passive arrangement. They can, you know, meet their needs at home, whatever, for the kids or whatever.
These particular positions, like the casual calls, they work such a limited number of hours, they don't qualify for benefits. So in that situation, I'm guessing she was probably a part-time at a part-time position. But that's another challenge because they're casual call, they work such limited hours. They're not in state retirement, they're not offered the other benefits that we have. So by trying to make financial incentive a little bit better, might help us recruit and retain.
Before we make motions and open questions, okay? Can I ask, how this overlays the percentages of increase that we've just done in the past month? Okay, on compensation.
Well, and that leads right into, say, with the sheriff, the reserve deputies. What we typically do is we apply the same percentage increase to the reserve deputies that we do to the compensation schedule. So that's the same 4% increase that we had planned on for the average increase.
So
for
that's
budget
already,
purposes.
that's already in there.
Yes, that's already.
Were some of them already approved? Where like Steve was an advocate for Parkview, were some of that money from Parkview already approved for Parkview, like the raises for
The incentives.
I'm not sure I follow your question.
These are the unclassified ones.
Right, so most of these positions wouldn't be eligible for incentives. Some at Parkview would be based on language in the resolution. But they're getting, if they qualify for any incentives, it's limited and no benefits. And so we're going to be starting recruitment for seasonal employees shortly. We typically start recruiting in February based on challenges we had last year. We're probably going to start recruiting in January. And so again, part of the thought is if we have these rates updated ahead of time, it allows us to start advertising. We always send out mailings to our previous seasonals and employees who worked for us the previous year, trying to see if they would be willing to come back. So obviously, if we can provide updated pay information before they start looking elsewhere, we just want to try to stay ahead of things as much as possible.
Okay, we have a motion.
I move to approve the pay schedule for the unclassified.
Second.
Second and Don. Questions?
I'd just like to, maybe next year, you could break the highway department out of that group and bring them down to like the $16. I mean, they're working on the highways. We got the people cutting the medians on the roads. I mean, they're cutting grass that's maybe 10 feet wide and there's cars going by on both sides. I mean, the risk factor in that job is by far greater than cutting grass at a park or an airport. And they get no compensation for it. Flagging traffic, there's usually at least one flagger killed every year in Wisconsin. And that's what they do, they flag traffic. You know, they're the first line keeping the crews safe. If they basically aren't paying attention, the car goes through at 50 miles an hour, it hits the crew. You know, so I think those jobs should basically pay more than somebody cutting grass at the airport or the parks. You know, there's more of a risk of injury and even stress. I mean, I've always trained, we always had 2 college girls cut the medians, and when they first go out there, they're terrified. You know, you got a semi going by you at 50 miles an hour and, you know, you blow your hat off and, you know, they get used to it. I mean, we've never had one killed or injured, but I mean, it's a kind of a frightening job when you first, and it's hard to get people to want to work in those conditions. Or, you know, if you gave me my choice where I'll cut grass at the parks or the airport because it's a whole lot safer, you know. So, you know, next year when you go to evaluate them, I just like to see that.
Okay.
Maybe broken out of that category and
Hazard
put
pay.
down by the,
Just put a hazard pay out there and tack it on as, you know, needed some way. That would be ideal. 50 cents hazard pay. Yes, Don.
Are we allowed to hire 16-year-olds for seasonal work?
This past season, we did, we had some, you know, there's certain positions that we don't have them work, obviously, but some departments did have. You know,
So are you going to the schools and recruiting?
I'm not sure if the person in our department that handles the seasonals, recruited in schools last year. I'm not sure how he found them. But anyone that was in school last year, like I said, I know they'll certainly get a letter. I mean, we're trying to look under every possible rock.
I go to the schools to recruit the high schools and try to get the 18-year-olds. And now we're going heavy into college this year.
Are you going to like Valley Christian High School?
I don't have a contact with that one, but north and west. But I can, easy
Well,
enough.
Give me your card and I'll
Okay.
give it to them.
But yeah, we actively recruit, and one of the things that we're finding is if the wage is competitive, we can get retired people, and I would hire all retired people. So, because they're easier on equipment and more reliable, more wisdom, you know. We're going full bore recruiting this year. Hopefully I can send some your way there.
If you give me your card, I'll send it to school and they can tell me who should contact you.
Yep. And we had one 16-year-old this year, and she worked out fine. I'd hire her, definitely, hopefully she comes back.
Those jobs go to the employees' kids.
That's true.
Anywhere we can find them.
Any other questions on? Anybody? Okay, we'll vote with it.
I,
Okay, we got 5.
Thank you.
On that.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, we're on resolution for accommodations for Lori Hella and Charles Ronberg. Somebody want to lead in with a motion?
second,
Okay. Dave and Betsy. Resolution accommodation for Lori Helen and accommodation for Charles Ronberg. We need a quick vote.
I,
5-0 on all of them. Okay, setting the meeting date.
January 5th,
January 5th,
this first Thursday.
January 5th, the first Thursday of the month.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
a question regarding the February meeting date. You raised that now. We're working on the capital improvements plan. The plan is, what we'd like to do is present it to the county board at two special orders meetings. But we want to get it done as early as we can to get all the projects together in February. So what we want to do is have special orders meetings the first week in January for county board, special orders for February for county board, which Chairman Egan has agreed to do. It would help matters, I think, or be more logical if the Personnel and Finance Committee meeting in February were after the second set of presentations. Then the P&F committee can vote on the plan and submit it to the board for approval in February. So what I'm suggesting is just a little advance warning is that it would be convenient for that purpose to have the P&F meeting in February on the second Thursday instead of the first. Look up what the date is.
no,
Oh. I know that two members here, though, will be gone, to the, convention in DC. Steve and I,
Is that the second week of February?
Yeah. I'm assuming you're leaving on the 9th also, or,
Yep, we're leaving, I'm leaving on the 9th, coming back on the 14th.
yeah,
All right, that's a problem. So I'm glad I brought it up.
yeah, I'm
Aware of
glad you
that.
did too,
I would be looking at the 9th. But
can we change it to the 8th?
It's like we could make, but the 9th,
When's the aviation committee?
No, we'll stay on Thursday.
We do the 3rd?
presentation to the board would normally be the 7th, special orders meeting be scheduled for the 7th.
Right, you want to have it just before that special orders meeting.
I want to have it just after, so
Just after.
so the committee can vote on it after having heard the presentation.
So what about the 16th?
Well, then it's a matter of can we get it to the board in February?
What are the dates for you and Steve?
we'll be in DC. We're going to
On what days?
we leave on the 9th, come back on the 14th.
You want to make it on the 7th of Tuesday?
Well, the 7th is the day of the county board. Special
Oh,
orders,
oh.
so it'd have to be
No, sorry.
8th or later.
And you're coming back?
What about the 16th?
No,
Well, to get on the county board agenda, we need to have the resolution on the 13th
Oh,
for the regular February board
I
meeting.
see what you're saying.
So there's a fairly narrow window there.
The 8th would work.
The 8th would work. If, I don't know, what about potential conflicts? I can look online and see what's normally on the schedule then.
I have aviation meeting probably at 8 AM, but I could still make it. Our meetings will go very long.
Or we could move the time a little later for PNF to 10 or something.
Our meetings never go past 9, anywhere near it, so,
You could leave early too.
yeah, it's not a big deal. That would be my only conflict, but I can make it work, so I'm good with that, if that's the case.
we can get 4 of us together. Four of us together on the 8th. You do the 8th?
I can make it.
My aviation might be on the 1st, I don't know, I can't remember if it's on
I
the
have
1st.
2 things that day, but I can cancel one and.
Is that a committee meeting or is it something?
No.
All right.
Let's do it. Let's do
So
the
if you
8th.
do it on the 8th, does that sound right?
That'd be great.
It's a Wednesday,
Yeah.
That's
Wednesday. You
Wednesday,
want it what
the
time?
8th,
till 9, or
on
you
9
wanna,
o'clock in the morning.
you wanna push it so she has plenty of time?
No, I'll be good, don't worry, I will make it here. You're good.
9,
9.
Do it 9.
on the county clerk posted then.
Thank you, appreciate this.
Let me make sure I get the doggone thing in here. Nine. Who's that one? I thought.
I'd like to move to approve or to adjourn.
Wait a second. Wait a second. We've got meeting dates for January 5th and February the 8th. Okay, are we all agreed on that? Everybody agreed on that? Okay, now for the adjournment. Dave?
Move to adjourn. She moved to adjourn, I seconded.
I,
You know, on the insurance claims, Mike, how long does that usually take? That guy with the eyeglasses never heard nothing back yet. Here we go.